film songs to me are not just songs, they're little philosophies of life. I used to find the atmosphere very fascinating. I used to see the smoke-filled room. I used to see the glasses tinkling. Then I would hear laughter and I would hear this beautiful Urdu being spoken, and I would then hide behind the curtain. And my father would tell me, there's no need for you to hide behind the curtain. Come and sit with us. There is only one Dilip Kumar and there is only one Balraj Sahani.
Shabana, thank you so much for making time for this special project on the golden age of Hindi cinema. I'm super excited to speak to you, and I'm hoping that you have some memories. I've read the most amazing things about what your home was like.
Yeah.
You said in an interview that it was a cultural hub, Janki Kutir.
Yeah.
And you just had these incredible, iconic names coming in and out. Guru Dutt and Chetan Anand and Faiz Ahmed Faiz would just... What are your memories of this time?
You know, remember that I was born in 1950.
Right, so you were really young.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was like about 7 or 8 or something at that time. And it was a house in which there was, like you just said, you had Guru Dutt, because my father was working with him in Kagaz Ke Phool, and then there was Chetan Anand, of course. And on the other hand, you had Faiz Ahmed Faiz, you had Begum Akhtar, you had Firaq Gorakhpuri, all these people as house guests, Josh Malihabadi. I mean, these are the biggest names in the business at that time. And then we were also very close friends with Sardar Jafri, with Majru Sultanpuri, Sahir Ludhianvi. So it was a house, it was an open house. There were artists everywhere. They were a group of people that believed art should be used as an instrument for social change. And that, I think, reflected in their work and the choices that they made as filmmakers, as writers, as lyricists, what have you.
You know, I heard this lovely story that your mom had this expensive Kada. And when like Faiz Saab would come and just be a house guest, like you said, for days, right? And if the money would run out, then Kaifi Saab would take this Kada and hawk it, put it up for girvi, and then he'd write one of his great songs, Waqt Ne Kiya or some such, and the money would come and the Kada would come back.
You know, you have...
Is this true?
Well, you have it true up to a point, because firstly, it was not a very expensive Kada. It was just one golden Kada. It was the only jewelry that my mother had. But she, being the trooper that she was, and such a huge supporter of her husband, that food on the table was a very big thing. We've always had, jisko bolte na, dastarkhan. So anybody who came at any time, there was always food on the table, and really good Muslim food. Now, Baba and myself, my brother and I, we would suss that some house guests are coming, because when that Kada would disappear from my mother's hand, then we'd know, all right, it's been pawned, and now, of course, we don't know when it's going to come back. And then we would have Josh Malihabadi and Firaq Gorakhpuri and all that living with us. And then, of course, Abba would write, and then the Kada would come back. So it was a way of knowing that we are going to have house guests, because that was very, very important for her, that they should get the best food. And really, so, you know, there was something very interesting, because these were all big names and they could very easily stay in 5-star hotels. They could have stayed in a big industrialist's house, but there was something here that was being given to them, where it was, we had no attached bathrooms in our little cottage in Janki Kutir. It was a house, by the way, that had been rented by Salil Chaudhary before us. And then we moved in over here. So there was no attached bathroom. When these guests would come, I would have to move into my brother's room and they would live in my room. So it was that, but there was just this...
Did it bug you?
It didn't bug me at all. It didn't bug me because there was, you know, I didn't quite understand what was happening, but I used to find it very fascinating. I used to find the atmosphere very fascinating. I used to see the smoke-filled room. I used to see the glasses tinkling. Then I would hear laughter, and I would hear this beautiful Urdu being spoken, and I would then hide behind the curtain. And my father would tell me, there's no need for you to hide behind the curtain. Come and sit with us. And I would sit in this august company, and then he would say that you can sit here for as long as you want, as long as you take the responsibility that tomorrow morning you will get up and go to school and not use this as an excuse to say, I had a late night. So I also felt very grown up and very responsible. But it was, I think there is just something magical about having artists around you. So on the one hand, we had the theatre people, on the other hand, we had people from the film industry, then we had a lot of writers and poets. It was really the custodian of art and culture in those days.
But what were these people like? What was Guru Dutt like?
Shy.
Really?
Very shy, would speak very little. I used to find him extremely attractive, but I would just sort of in and out of the room. But my father says something really mazedar. He said, it's very strange in those days, and in fact it started happening now again, that you would imagine when a song is being written, a song as beautiful as Waqt ne kiya kya hasi sitam or Bichhde sabhi bari bari, you would imagine that the words would have been written first, and then after that it would be set to tune, but it wasn't like that. First the tune would be made, and then the words would be written to the tune. So my father, Kaifi Azmi, always says it was like as if you first dig a grave and then find a corpse that can fit into that grave. So sometimes the legs come out, sometimes the head come out, but people started giving me work because they felt that I was able to dig.
He could fit it.
I was able to fit corpses into the right grave. So that was the thing that, you know, there's such a lovely story about Waqt ne kiya kya hasi sitam. Abba says that they had written the song on their own. There was a tune that
मतलब for the film कि ऐसे एक दिन लिख लिया?
एक दिन पूरा नहीं लिखा, सिर्फ उसका जो मुखड़ा है वो उन्होंने लिखा, और एस.डी. बर्मन ने उसकी ट्यून दी और कैफी साहब ने लिखा वक्त ने किया क्या हसी सितम. So Guru Dutt fell in love with the song and he said कि मुझे तो ये गाना चाहिए ही चाहिए. तो उन्होंने कहा मगर सिचुएशन तो है नहीं फिल्म में. उन्होंने कहा पूरा गाना बना दीजिए, सिचुएशन मैं क्रिएट कर दूंगा. एंड दैट्स हाउ दिस आइकॉनिक वक्त ने किया क्या हसी सितम वाज.
That's amazing.
Amazing. But there's another thing that for me was very fascinating. Chetan Anand would come to the house. Anu, you will not believe it, he would come every single day.
Really?
Yeah.
They were very good friends.
They were very, very good friends. Because you know what had happened is that including Kagaz Ke Phool, all these films didn't do well at the box office. In fact, they flopped. Although the music became extremely popular. So a time came when my father stopped getting any work as a lyricist because he was considered ill luck, bad luck. So he stopped getting work. One day, Chetan Anand walked into his house and said, Kaifi Saab, I'm writing a film, I'm making a film and I'd like you to write the songs. And he said, Chetan Saab, kyun khatra mol lete hain? People say that I write well, but my stars are not good. So Chetan Saab said, they say the same thing about me, that my stars are also not good. So maybe two minuses will get together and make a plus, and that's how Haqiqat was born. And then of course after that there were so many films. But Chetan Saab would come every single day. There was a veranda that still exists in which my father would sit here, exactly where I'm sitting, and Chetan Saab at some distance would sit there where you're sitting, and not a word would be spoken. They would sit in silence. Abba would be looking this way, Chetan Saab would be looking this way, and I would walk in and out and see Chetan Saab with his key ring, fooling around with that, and I would say, surely this is not how songs are made. But somehow, I don't know how they communicated with each other. I would just see them sitting opposite each other in silence, but in complete harmony, as if they were understanding each other by a process of osmosis.
That's
almost,
amazing.
you know, it was just.
And they created ab tumhare
हवाले वतन साथियों. ये कब हुआ? ये कब छुप के उन्होंने किया? वो हमको नहीं मालूम. हमने सिर्फ ये देखा कि ये लोग बैठ के बस बिना एक लफ्ज किए हुए. They just said, unbelievable. But Abba says about Guru Dutt that Guru Dutt had a very, very keen ear for music. See, he didn't know the language very well, but there was something quite magical about what he wanted. And S.D. Burman, see, it's very interesting because S.D. Burman is also not known for his understanding of Urdu language, neither is Guru Dutt, but then look at the wonderful things that came out of those era. I mean, Hindi film songs to me, particularly the ones that were written in the early era, are not just songs, they're little philosophies of life. They give you the means.
Poetry.
Yeah, it's poetry, of course, but it also gives you the means and the ways to negotiate your way around life. So, Jaaye to Jaaye Kahan can be something that from there you draw a philosophy. Kya kare? Ya on various situations, you get strength from these songs. Why do you get it? Because these songs were written from the heart, from a heart that had a very strong connection with the mind. Remember that this was the work of people who had been actively involved in the freedom movement. This was post-independence. They believed, they were all people who were tuned to a different drummer. They believed that art should be used as an instrument for social change. And the most important thing about them was their resource base was life itself.
They weren't watching other movies.
It's not from other movies, it's from life itself. And that's where, and that life, the observation of that life was influenced, the observation of life was influenced by their philosophy, which was for a better world. So they actually studied human beings, whether you see it in the work of Bimal Roy, whether you see it in the work of Mehboob Khan, whether you see any of the greats of that time. They were really rooted in their culture, rooted in Indianness, rooted in trying to free themselves from the shackles of feudalism, all of that, and that informed their work.
Where did Kaifi Saab write? Was there a place in the house?
You see, Kaifi Saab had, yes, he had a desk. He would sit at the desk. He would only write with a fountain pen. He would never use a ball pen. He had a small little writing pad which was lined, and he would write either with blue-black ink or with black ink. And he was very, very fond of his Mont Blanc pens. In fact, that was the only worldly possession he had. He had many people had gifted him Mont Blanc pens. But what was very interesting is that when he had a deadline, supposing tomorrow morning he has to give the song, today the most unnecessary work would start happening. For instance, he would start cleaning his drawers. Then letters that had not been written for 3 months would suddenly need to be replied to at that very moment.
So he was a procrastinator?
Yeah, a procrastinator till the last minute. Then he would start cleaning his fountain pens and all kinds of things would happen. And then, of course, we realized much later that actually the creative process was happening as he was doing all this thing. But he was never precious about writing. It wasn't that we were told to shut up because Abba was writing.
Silence
could be neither. In his study, his door would always be open. Life would be touching him. We would be shouting, screaming, the radio would be on, the children would be laughing. None of that ever disturbed the work that he was doing. There's nothing precious about him. And that what I used to love is when finally the song would happen, or when a nazm would happen, when the poem would happen, he'd say, "Ek nazm ho gayi hai, suno." सुनोगी, एक नज़्म हो गई है, मतलब कहाँ ऊपर से टपक पड़ी, आपका इसमें कुछ लेना देना नहीं था. It would just be something that just sort of happens. And this we would see a lot. And then there were evenings when these young poets would come and then they would all exchange their poetry. And a lot of them were also now writing for Hindi films. So it was Majru, it was Sahir, it was Shailendra.
So when Kaifi Saab said कि एक नज़्म हो गई है, who were the bouncing boards? You also?
I'm surprised why he used to do this, because I was no great shakes at the language or something, but he would inevitably, I would be the first person to whom he would recite. And then,
lovely.
yeah, lovely.
How old were you?
And then 9. 9, he would start from 9, that happened till the time, right up till the very end. And then imagine, I was just 9, and if I took objection to a word, he always changed it. He always changed it. So I said, but how can you take me so seriously? I mean, I was only 9 at that time, and I didn't even know the language and stuff like that. But he said, for precisely that reason, because see, you were reacting to the phonetics of it, and there was something, if you didn't agree with a word, there was something that bothered your phonetics, and that's very important in a poem or a song. So he would change it.
So you
of
were the
course
first audience.
Yes, I used to just fancy myself so much. My father did it as a way of just being charming, I think, but I took myself very serious.
How lovely.
Seriously for it, that it was my opinion ultimately.
How lovely.
It's just sweet.
So I read that your favorite actors from the time are Dilip Kumar and Balraj Sahani.
Not from the time. Forever
Forever.
and ever, from the beginning of infinity
the
right
end.
up till the very end. There is only one Dilip Kumar and there is only one Balraj Sahani. मतलब इसमें आप इसको time bound मत करिए. If people have not seen the work of Dilip Kumar, then they shouldn't say that they are fans of Hindi cinema or that they know anything about any cinema. Because Dilip Kumar and the kind of acting that he brought, the method acting, which at that time was unheard of in Hindi movies, the intensity, the passion, the complete, whether it was his voice, whether it was his body language, he was the character. And when you hear him talking about what were his influences, he had Paul Muni, people who were the method actor. Now, given that he was from a fruit seller's family, where he developed this great art, I don't know. But Dilip Kumar, in a romantic song in Tarana, where he's only lying and Madhubala has her face turned towards him and he's just looking at her. Anu, if he had looked at me like that, मैं तो बस बिच के मर के तबाह हो जाती ना. Dilip Kumar had this amazing.
How handsome was he?
How handsome? Chalo, forget about handsome. But the fact is that when he's looking, Dilip Kumar is one of those rare actors in Hindi cinema. When he looks, he's only looking.
Yeah.
He's not adding. Otherwise, most Indian actors are not satisfied with just looking. They have to add. So, जैसे कि अगर look करना है, तो सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं करेंगे. ऐसा करेंगे, फिर करेंगे. कुछ आँख में कुछ ये that मैं एक हस्ती हूँ, that I am there and I am doing
notice
this.
Me.
Nah, notice me. And Dilip Kumar would merely look. When he looked at a woman with love, you felt that nobody else existed. So I mean, he's famous for his romantic scenes, but I mean, look at his versatility for somebody who can do Devdas and just watch Mitwa. Just watch, it is an ocean of sadness on his face. He doesn't have to do anything, you just look at the face and that face is just speaking. Two really crazy kind of comedy that he was capable of doing.
My God.
Sham and what he was capable of, and how he enjoyed taking the mickey out of the characters around him. Then he could be so dignified, he could be so sober. I mean, he was just amazing. He has influenced generations of actors after him. Amitabh Bachchan himself says that he's so influenced. Or if you look at Nasiruddin Shah, you look at Farooq Sheikh, you look at any of the actors that we consider good actors, they've all been influenced by Dilip Kumar. He is an institution by himself. His command on the language. He was also an extremely dignified person in real life. Very charming, keep raconteur, would tell tales. He has the art of the seducer. When he's with people, he can just hold forth and they will just die at his feet. But for all his stardom, he is basically an actor, and that's why I think we can have nobody else like Dilip Kumar. And you can't really judge an actor, you can judge a performance. it's not like a horse race that one who walks one who runs the fastest in the shortest
Is the
time
best.
is the best.
Yeah.
ऐसा नहीं है ना. So it is perfectly possible that somebody who plays a very definitive Devdas could be a complete disaster in Ram or Sham.
Right.
But he inhabits both those worlds, like the world is a stage for him. You know, versatility to my mind is the true hallmark of a good actor, and that you see plenty in Dilip Kumar.
Did you ever like sort of study his performances? Did that impact on you as an actor?
You know what impacted on me as an actor? I've not been a great avid film goer as such, but my mother was a huge fan of Dilip Kumar, and Dilip Sahab also used to come to the house. He was also very interested in Urdu poetry, so he was friends with my father and all that. This amazing magnetism to him that you cannot really describe in words at all. Tremendous sophistication. But also, do you know about Dilip Kumar that he's a chatora of the first order, and he likes to eat pakoras, and he likes to eat all kinds of rubbish food. And then after that, he told me this story which I found so charming. He said, you know, Sarah put me on a diet, and she gave me some soup and some boiled chicken to eat and all that. And so I ate it. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I got up feeling so sad for myself that I quickly walked out of my bedroom, went to the fridge and just ate everything that was there, because I said, ab to main bhuka so gaya tha, now I can do this. You know, chatora really likes food and likes spicy pakoras and things like that. So when he tells you these stories, you know, you're so much in awe of him, you expect Mughal-e-Azam's dialogue to be coming out of his mouth.
What did you like about Balraj, Sahani?
He had this amazing ability to speak the most inane dialogue in a way that he would make them believable. Now, that to me is a real art, because the kind of dialogue that he had to say, I mean, one would collapse before even trying to say them, but he would just say them. I mean, look at him in Haqiqat. He's unbelievable, but his most definitive performance is in Garm Hawa, which came much later. But to me, that is the most flawless performance ever in Hindi cinema. You know, it's very interesting. My mother tells me, when Abba wrote the script, she went with Balraj Sahni to talk to him about the film. And he said, but I don't know this world, and I don't know characters like this. Will I be able to do it? So Mummy, who had worked with him in theatre before that, said, you're the only person who could do it. He said, see, I find it very challenging, but I'm also very frightened by it. So then my father's friends who used to live in Bhivandi, some comrades, he went and lived with them for 10 days. He slept on a charpai. He was the great Balraj Sahni. He slept on a charpai with them, and he, again by a process of osmosis, just inhabited the world of this man. Garm Hawa to me remains the most definitive film on partition, and it's such a moving account. And Balraj Sahni's portrayal, there's not a single false note in it. And my mother, who's acting in the film, says that she would never feel she's speaking dialogue. She would just feel that it, as if it had been taken from life. She says there are a lot of touches of the scenes between Balraj Sahni and Geeta, who played his daughter, where actually the dialogue exchange was taken straight out of his life with me.
Really?
Yeah. The relationship between Farooq Sheikh, who's Geeta's brother, is, mummy कहती थी मुझे लगता है बाबा और तुम्हारे बीच में ये हो रहा है. So it was so closely observed, and it was so realistic. The whole thing was so realistic. Also, I think the fact that most of the actors were from theatre also, and that they had to make the film in a very, very shoestring budget. I mean, they lived anywhere, all of that. But, you know, they say कि Muslims को mainstream join करना चाहिए. तो क्या होता है मेन स्ट्रीम? अगर वो शू फैक्ट्री का ओनर है तो वो मेन स्ट्रीम ही तो हुआ. सो विदाउट शविंग इट in your face, the complexities of what happened at that time, it's just a stunning film, and Balraj Sahni's performance is
Yeah.
Incredible.
For me, that scene where the grandmother hides under that sink.
Taken from my mother's life.
No.
It's taken from my mother's life because my mother's grandmother, this was a story she had told my father, that her grandmother refused to leave the house, and she went and hid in it because they were moving out of it, and then Abba put it in this. That's taken so beautiful. And Deena Pathak is the person who gave her voice for that old lady.
Right. Oof, it's just like full goosebumps. I mean, it's amazing.
And you know, the interesting thing about Garm Hawa was that they didn't have a Nagra because they couldn't afford it. So they just recorded the dialogue on a very small cassette player.
Really?
On a cassette player, yeah.
Like a regular?
Like a regular cassette player. उस ज़माने में 500 रुपए का आता था शायद yellow रंग का. So it was out sync. It was out sync because it didn't match the frames. So when they were dubbing, they couldn't hear anything in sync. They had to listen to it, and then, you know how sync sound is. How you dub is what you can hear.
You can hear it and you're dubbing, yeah.
But this is, you hear it, you stop it, and then you do
dub.
it. And then when Balraj Sahni was dubbing the film, he said, "My God, this is truly a very important film." और इसको देखने के बाद तो सत्यजीत रे को भी दाढ़ी रख लेनी पड़ेगी, because Satyu had a दाढ़ी.
Right.
And then imagine that he did the last bit of dubbing, and the next morning he died.
Unbelievable.
It was as if he was born to play,
to do that
part and to complete it. It could have happened a day before, but he did the last bit, and then after that he was gone. So it's unfortunate that he never got to see Garm Hawa on the big screen, but his memory lives on.
You know, I saw this talk you gave at a mushaira a couple of years ago, and you talked about how during the 50s and 60s, Hindi cinema actually protected the Urdu language, and you said now we're just shunning it. What do you think has happened, and what have we lost?
See, first we must remember that poetry was revered. People liked poetry. Mushairas were big things. Poets at that time, I remember in the 50s and 60s, my father and Majru and Sahir, Janasar, they used to be like major stars.
Right.
When they came,
they were rock stars.
They were rock stars. They were rock stars. I mean, there were girls just falling all over them, and they were really major rock stars. And poetry was valued very greatly. These were people who had come from the progressive writers. They were people from the Urdu language. They knew the language. And so that informed the songs that they were doing. The Hindi film song became the natural repository of the Urdu language. And I think the Hindi film song, with its language and its music as it used to be, is something that we need to reclaim rather than the noise that is happening at the moment in the name of music. Of course, there are exceptions, but that's what's happening.
Do you think actors today should know about these movies, about these people? Like you said, if you don't know the work of Dilip Kumar, you don't know much.
You know, it's like saying that I want to be a writer, but I don't know the alphabet. If you say you want to be an actor and you don't know the work of Dilip Kumar, then you don't know the alphabet. So, anything that you want to do well, if you don't know the history, see, you can manage without it. I'm not saying that you can't manage, but if you know the history, if you know the work, if you know where these people were located and situated, and from where characters that are informing people even today were created, how can you not know about them? How can you write a story in India if you've not read Prem Chand? It's that kind of thing.
Foundation, hai na?
The foundation. It's the foundation, because see, in order to take flight, you have to first be rooted. And how can you be rooted if you do not know about the greats in your own field? So, not knowing Dilip Kumar for an actor is like not knowing the alphabet and wanting to become a writer.
Okay, and last question, if you had to recommend a film to all the millennials out there who don't know this time, what would it be?
There are so many, it's very difficult to say. I would say Mother India. See, when you judge it today, of course it's melodramatic, of course it's over the top. But if you see the character that Nargis played, why did the film become such a big success? Because she is rooted very strongly in our mythology. Our mythology, you know, in Indian cinema borrows very heavily from Indian mythology. So our notions of the hero and the heroine are created from Ram, Sita, people that belong to our mythology. And so within that, who the mother was, who for the sake of good would sacrifice even the son that she loved, as the epitome of what motherhood meant, which was something. Then you found shades of that, of course, in Diwar and 100 films after that.
Repeated
ad
nauseam.
Film Mother. But first it was amazing for its structure, for its script, for the performance of Nargis, and it had everything. It was, we must also remember that our Hindi cinema has actually emanated from the Parsi theatre. The Parsi theatre was something that took all, borrowed from various art forms, and there were stock streams in it. So there was a comedy stream, then there was a side stream, then there was great music in it, and that's where Hindi cinema took its form from. So Mother India to me is an epitome of that form that was taken from our own roots, and which, if you need to understand how melodrama is used effectively as a tool, because it is melodrama but it is used effectively. So in order to be completely introspective today, unless you have experienced melodrama and the strength of it, how can you become introspective? If Fellini makes Amarcord, which seems like such a simple film, it couldn't have acted अगर उन्होंने पूरी तरह से रियाज नहीं किया होता, where he knows all the ups and downs, and then the only way you can come to simplicity is if you have experienced all the turmoil that you can.
Yeah. So you know the rules and then break them.
That's absolutely true.
Fantastic. Shabana, this was so much fun.
Thank you.
I could listen to you talk forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.